Welcome to Untangling Knots, the complexities of homelessness. Today is episode 1, the national crackdown on homelessness. We're diving deep into the national fervor of homeless camp sweeps. It's a contentious issue with many layers, and we're going to peel them back. I'm KK Assmann, founder and CEO of Care Beyond the Boulevard, and my co-host is Josh Henges. We want you to truly understand homelessness. We're going to talk straight about the raw, intricate complexities of homelessness, and yeah, that might mean uncomfortable conversation. So let's untangle these knots together.
I need to start by getting a disclaimer. Perhaps you do too.
Probably.
The views and opinions expressed on the show do not necessarily reflect those of who we work for or who we work with. So if you have a complaint, send it to me.
And if you have a complaint about me, send it to Josh.
I'll handle those, no problem.
Perfect. All right. So let's get into it, Josh. Let's talk about homeless camp sweeps.
Yeah, this is visible homelessness has really overtaken the consciousness of America. It's really interesting. But I think it's important to set something up. 80% of homelessness in America you don't see. So put it like this. If 10 people represent all those who are homeless in America, 8 of them are going to be circumstantially homeless. That means single mom, transmission goes out in the car, rent is due, she can't make it. Overwhelmingly, those folks are going to stay with their friends and their family. You don't see them. We also call them hidden homeless. It's that 20% that you see outside that dictates the conversation about homelessness. That 20% is who you see living in encampments. It's a small percentage of the overall homeless population, but it is a very visible form of homelessness, which is why it shapes the consciousness and discussion around homelessness in general. And folks, when you live outside, wherever a system fails, people create their own. And that system is a homeless encampment. KK, you've been in encampments your entire career. Can you tell me what you see in these encampments? What is it like there?
So I think that from a medical provider standpoint, because I'm a nurse practitioner, and so I oftentimes take things from the medical lens, I truly see a lot of risk out there. There is unkept, there's trash. There are a lot of dangers along the way. It's not safe walking down there. And I'm not talking unsafe from people are going to attack you, right? I'm talking about the terrain is unsafe. And it is truly sad for me. When I walk into an encampment, I do feel sad. I feel sad about looking at what has become common for many people. I think that is really important. So we're talking about Kansas City. We're from Kansas City, yeah, but we're talking about the entire nation. This is not specific to Kansas City. Yeah. I do think it's important to note that in Kansas City, we lead the nation in chronic homelessness, and we have for 3 years?
3 years running.
3 years running. So what that means is that about 96% of our people who are sleeping outside in these encampments have been there for longer than a year, and they have one disability.
So because of the nature of the work that I do, I want to work with cities to help them come up with strategies on how to address homelessness. We view encampments differently, and cities really have to view encampments differently from a service provider. Now, I did service providing my entire career, only recently working with cities to do this other way. But from the perspective of a service provider, how do you view this new push nationwide of enforcement in camp sweeps?
That's a really good question. And the thing is that I am not supportive of encampment sweeps. One of the things that I know is that studies have shown that encampment sweeps are actually detrimental to people who are experiencing homelessness, to their health, their mental health, and their physical health. Studies are showing the impact on the health in a negative way for people who are being swept. We think about this and we think about primarily their mental health, right? Because it causes increased anxiety, increased depression. There's a lot of anxiety related to being homeless, right? And so then you come in as a city, and I say you, not meaning you specifically, but
cities in
general come in and they take everything. So here's the thing that the general population might not know. It's not like they come up to encampments and say, okay, do you want to get all of your belongings out? Oh, you need to grab your medicine from your tent. It doesn't work that way. It's, we're here. We're going to take everything now. Now, disclaimer, generally people are notified that their camps are being swept. They are. It is supposed to be a requirement that you give them a 30-day notice. But the problem is, where do you go? Where do people who are living outside go when they get that 30-day notice? It's not like in 30 days we're going to help them get housing. We're not going to find them a permanent solution to their homelessness. So where do they go in that 30 days? Many of them stress. They get more anxious during that time period, and then they end up staying there. And the day that those encampment sweeps happen, they are there crying, understandably. All of their stuff is still in their tent. Many times everything they own is in their tent. And so then everything they own gets put in the back of the dumpster. That's anxiety provoking. When we talk about everything they own, we're talking about medications. We're talking about vital documents. We're talking about grandma's picture.
Let's talk about vital documents. This is an interesting one, especially when I was doing service, when I was a service provider, working one-on-one, case management, things like that. I had, and I want to know if this is still true today, because I haven't done service providing in a number of years. When I was case manager, I never had a client, ever, not one time, that didn't have their ID, their vital documents in some way removed from them, either lost or stolen, usually stolen. And I say stolen, sweeps count as that. Not necessarily maliciously, I want this, but it's taken from them. 100% batting average. Is that still the case today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And those vital documents are necessary for jobs, for housing, and people lose them all the time.
How long does it take? So like, it's very easy to have that removed. It takes 1 second.
Yep.
How long does it take? So how many hours of work to get someone a new ID and keep in mind, it's a game of paper, rock, scissors. You got to have the birth certificate to get the social security card. You got to have those two to get the ID. Yeah. So it's not like you can just go and get these off one at a time. You have to have this complex system where you're getting them all at the same time somehow with nothing.
Right.
So how many hours does it take to replace someone's ID?
It depends on where their IDs are coming from, right? So if you have somebody coming from Pennsylvania, getting a Pennsylvania birth certificate is like pulling teeth, like literally, right? Now, if we have somebody who was born in Kansas, what we do is once a month, our case managers drive to Topeka with the people who need to get those birth certificates. They take them to the courthouse or the state house in Topeka, and we get their birth certificates. Every Friday, my case managers go to the health department to help people who are from Missouri to get their documents, right? Now, if they're from another state, which many of our patients are, I will tell you the majority of our patients are homegrown, right?
Oh, yeah. This is true in every.
That's a misnomer. Like, oh, people who are experiencing homelessness in any city are transient. Kansas City, that's not true, right? Many of the people who are homeless in Kansas City were born and raised or lived a big part of their life in Kansas City. But so we take them down there. Sometimes it takes a couple of hours. Sometimes it's longer, right? If you're applying for a birth certificate out of state, then it can take days to weeks to months, right? We have citizens of the United States who maybe were born in Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get their birth certificates. We have one gentleman who's been trying for 2 years to get his birth certificate. He's a citizen of the United States, right? So those documents are necessary to get a job. And so then we sweep their camps where all of their documents are located, throw them in the trash with everything else that they own, and tell them to go find somewhere else to live. Now they don't have a tent. They don't have a blanket. They don't have a tarp. They don't have their vital documents. They don't have their medication. So not only is it not good for their mental health, it's also not good for their physical health.
All right. So I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of AC. Not necessarily Kansas City, but I can talk about what we've created here in response to this. So the team that I have at the city, all of us were service providers. all of us have lived experience, which really helps. It really helps in this. But a city is going to view, and this is any city, they're going to view an encampment differently. So studies are going to show that the disruption of an individual in an encampment, out of an encampment, is going to increase the likelihood of overdose, usually with opiates. It's also going to increase the likelihood of alcohol consumption and some kind of mental illness episode. So those are going to increase. The problem is an encampment cannot be viewed in a vacuum. So all of the things that are happening in an encampment also impact the neighborhood around the encampment. So similar studies are going to show an encampment is going to increase crime in an area. It's going to increase anxiety around neighbors and neighbors. Imagine you have a 7-year-old daughter and her bus stop is across the street from an encampment. An encampment is not a pleasant place to be. So if you've got a concentration of folks with severe persistent mental illness and substance use disorder, they're going to behave in ways that are antisocial in general. And I'm using that term very broadly. But they're going to behave in ways that you don't want that 7-year-old to be a part of or around. To include on the extreme end, there are acts of violence and open acts of drug use and consumption. And drug consumption also means drug dealers, so that element is being added to the community. So from these two different perspectives, from the perspective of folks in there and the perspective of the folks being impacted by the encampment, a city is going to respond almost certainly to the issues around the encampment, without question, because they cannot ignore them. So America right now has a very bad unsheltered homeless problem. Nothing has worked. We are seeing records break every single year in the number of people both becoming homeless and remaining homeless, unsheltered. So if you're an elected official, and this is nationwide, this is not just a Kansas City thing, this is nationwide, who are you going to be more responsive to? Businesses, neighborhoods, the people who put you in power, or folks experiencing homelessness who have absolutely no ability to in any way impact politics other than could potentially be disruptive? Well, you're seeing it nationwide. So as complaints roll in, and this is how this whole thing works, you're a neighborhood, you're a citizen, you're a business owner, you're saying, I can't have this encampment here. And they're right. They can't have this encampment here. It is disrupting their life. Elected officials have to choose to do something because doing nothing now is viewed as worse than doing something.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you work in the homelessness prevention rag for the city, right?
That's the title.
The title. How many calls a month come through your department related to homelessness? How many complaints from homeowners, from business owners?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Oh, yeah, hundreds. We have it actually tracked. I got to see where we're at now. And I remember within the first year, we had over 2,000, 1,600 to 2,000. Every single call, email, 311 reports comes through our team if it is related to homelessness. Some of the calls are nonsense that you're going to get. Sure. I see a homeless person eating mayonnaise. What do you want me to do? When we get a net? What are you talking about? No, people are allowed to eat mayonnaise, homeless or not, okay? So we get those for sure. Sure. But primarily it's going to be about an encampment, and primarily the email is going to discuss illegal activity happening there. Now, I say illegal. That is a broad spectrum from loitering to taking your shirt off and fighting, right? So those are what the complaints are going to be. I'm not here to deal with crime. My team is not an enforcement mechanism. What we want to do is create a system that delivers people out of homelessness to include encampments. But the primary issue folks have is not with people being homeless. The issue is the behaviors that are happening there and needing those to be addressed. And if the service providing world is only looking at this through the lens of folks experiencing homelessness, which that lens tells you, do not disrupt this encampment because it's bad for them, that is not the perspective of the majority of people in America, because they are saying this encampment is affecting all of us, and our desire to do nothing about it is only making things worse. So we're really at odds. It's really interesting right now, because the way the service provider will views the problem of homelessness is not the way most of America does right now.
Right. However, you go in there with a suite, right? What is your answer? Right? There's no place to wrap people.
Keep in mind, the goal is not to solve the homelessness of the people in the encampment. That is your goal.
Right.
The goal is to stop that behavior.
Right.
Regardless of the housing situation of anyone involved. Remove homelessness from the topic. Imagine if your housed neighbors, wherever you live, are doing the things that this encampment is doing. The cops would shut it down.
Sure.
So the expectation now from the citizenry is we expect the same level of enforcement whether you're housed or not. That is the perspective. People didn't just all of a sudden hate homeless people. That's not what's happening. People still want good things for folks in there. What they don't want is all the trappings of homeless encampments in their neighborhood or around their business. And look, I get it. I completely understand why they don't want that. Now, I have a high tolerance for it because I've been in this field. I understand what's happening, but I totally get folks that don't.
So I think, we see a lot of, not in my backyard, we call them NIMBYs in the work.
Which is such a great term. NIMBY, it's just smooth.
Go.
Yeah. And I understand NIMBYism.
I do understand. However, when we don't have an answer, we don't have a solution, not even a small solution for the people that are camping in that park, that are camping behind that, outhouse or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? There's no solution. What we're doing is moving them on to the next
what are they going to do?
Because there's no place.
Yeah.
If we don't provide services to them, if we don't work with them one-on-one, and I think that is part of the answer. I don't have an answer for homelessness, right? You do?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But I think part of the answer is working with people one-on-one, which is one of the things that we try to do here. When we know that there's going to be an encampment sweep, we do a targeted outreach with them, right? Outreach teams go out. We work with them to get birth certificates and ideas if they don't have them. We work with them to do housing assessments. We try to evaluate and see if we can get them to a long-term solution that's agreeable for them, right? One of the things that we have to make sure that we're not doing is forcing people into places or spaces that we want them to be because it's comfortable for us. We have to make sure that we're...
To what extent is that true, though? Because we all have to do things we don't want or don't like to do because there are rules and laws that do the opposite.
Absolutely. But I don't live in a house that I don't want to because somebody has made me.
The problem, though, is whether you're forced to live there or not, you can't do those other things. And for some reason, we know the reasons, they're not able to be an encampment and not do those things over time. That is the issue. What the general public is saying, do something about homelessness, fine. But in the meantime, that behavior cannot happen anymore. That is the problem we're at. So I believe fundamental street outreach and homeless services is going to have to adapt to this change. Because if we don't, we're going to continue to lose public support. Because I completely understand the political landscape. And I'm not saying I like or don't like. I'm not endorsing whatever, not into whatever. I understand that perspective. I get it. It makes sense. Especially it makes sense in how Americans view the world. It's not that they don't have compassion. It's that your compassion is reduced when your safety is on the line. And that's what's happening here too, or the safety of your family, where you are protecting or caring for, whether that's your business or your family. That is the issue. People are going to protect it. And politicians are going to protect the folks that want to protect that too. Also something I completely understand.
Yeah, I see your perspective. I still see the negative impacts of camp soups.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I think that we have got to figure out a happy medium where we're not completely disrupting people's lives. I get it. And providing more one-on-one. We have to remember that we're talking about human lives, right? And I think sometimes when people are talking about homelessness and addressing this, we forget that those are human beings. That's someone's mom, dad, brother, sister, son, daughter. And we're talking about human lives. And we cannot throw a blanket on those human lives and cover it up. We can't take a broom and sweep it down the street because that's what's happening. What we have to do is we have to interact with those humans, those individuals, and meet them where they are. Meeting that people where they are is one of my big mantras. And when I say that, I mean that both physically and emotionally. Not everybody is ready to get treated for their blood pressure. right? It's a fact of life, right? If you go to your doctor and they check your blood pressure and they're like, Josh, I think we need to start you on some medicine. You have the right to say no. And you can say, I want to try to do it with diet and exercise and whatever else. You're allowed to make those decisions for yourself and for your health. And for people who are experiencing homelessness, we need to try to work with them and carry that same thought. Let them be a little bit in control, because face it, there is not much in their life that they're in control of. Those people who are living outside aren't in control of where they're going to sleep at night. Particularly in our city, people move constantly. They aren't in control of what they're going to eat at night. They're not in control of how they're going to get someplace. And so I think that making sure that we're helping people to have one little bit of control of their life. And what I've seen over the years is that giving people a little bit of control of one aspect of their life can create a whole bunch of freedom for them. And that can really open doors for them to kind of come out and be more of an advocate for themselves and really look at changing some of their behaviors and the way they work.
Yeah, and I think that a couple things. I think that I love the blood pressure analogy. The problem is blood pressure doesn't cause you to set things on fire. So like in our desire for autonomy, we are excluding the autonomy of folks who are not homeless. So when and this is where I believe the service providing world is going to have to shift gears. We, especially when I was a case manager, we really demanded that the world meet folks experiencing homelessness where they are at. But what we didn't do was meet the NIMBY folks where they are at. NIMBY wins. I don't know what to tell you. NIMBY wins. And the reason NIMBY wins is the service providing world is at odds with them because they're refusing to meet them where they're at. We are refusing to say, hey, I completely understand that you can't have someone using the bathroom on your front door every day. But what we do is, I call it why washing. This is where we use a why to excuse a what. Well, this person is using the restroom on your door because they're mentally ill and there's no public restrooms. That why, you're not going to excuse this. There's no excuse for this. You can't use a why to excuse a what. So we want to excuse genuinely intolerable behavior that most human beings wouldn't accept. But, well, they're homeless, so you should accept it. That is gone. That can't there's no, that argument has failed, and it's really causing the service providing world to continue to alienate themselves against a public who genuinely wants good things for this population, but they now no longer have tolerance for the behavior of chronic homelessness. That is the issue that we're seeing right now. Because us as service providers are uninterested in mitigating those behaviors in favor of, we need to wait until XYZ, housing, all these things is not enough of us. We're telling everyone to ignore the things that our society cannot ignore if it wants to continue to thrive. It's really interesting right now. Keep in mind, it's not an endorsement. This is just how it is. And us in the service providing world in general, we have got to do a better job of meeting NIMBY where they are at, because they dictate this. It is not, you know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with you on that. I don't think that someone who has a business or a home should tolerate someone using the bathroom on their front stoop or at their front door. I don't think that that's acceptable. I do think that what we have to do as service providers is do a better job of what we call progressive engagement for those in the homeless service world. Progressive engagement is when you meet people, you talk to them, you repeatedly go to them. The first time that we meet somebody, they're generally not going to really interact with us. They don't trust us, understandably.
I think, like, imagine if a stranger walked up to you right on the sidewalk and said, "You're not good with your money. You need to fix that."
Right.
What would you say to them?
Exactly.
You lost. And who are you?
It's amazing to me that we, as the housed population, think that we have the entitlement to be able to do that to someone. It doesn't work that way. So what we have to do is we go to people, we see them in their encampments. Hey, I'm KK with Care Beyond the Boulevard, and if you need anything, let me know. First time, they're going to say, don't want anything, don't need anything. they may say, well, what do you do? Right? Oh, well, occasionally, hey, I've heard of you. But generally, the first time service providers meet a person who they haven't interacted with before, it's not friendly. It's not generally angry,
Right.
but it's not, oh, yeah, I want you to help me. That takes time. That takes them earning our trust. And I think that that's one of the things that we have to do better with people who are living outside.
Yes.
The problem is, here's the problem from the NIMBY perspective. They don't have time for that.
That's right.
There's poop on, right in front of their door of their business.
No, the tolerance is over.
Exactly. And so we have to figure out creative ways to engage with the people who are living outside and to see if we can meet them where they are, still meeting them where they are, but helping them help themselves to get the services that they need to move them on to wherever it is they want to be.
There's a ton of, so we went through a ton of issues, NIMBY, the problems with what a sweep can do to folks experiencing homelessness. Let's talk about what works, what we've seen work, what we want to expand. And I could speak to what we're doing here in Kansas City. It's been great to be a part of creating solutions for encampments, both for folks in the community and for folks experiencing homelessness. I think it's important to set up what a sweep is and what it isn't too. The overwhelming majority of homeless encampments are on private property. Private property owners have a right to say you can't trespass here. So that is not, in the terms of the law, that is not a homeless issue. That is a trespassing issue. So it'd be the same if you went home today and on your front, right in front of your door, someone put in an encampment, you are allowed to say you cannot be here. So that is most of the time what happens. That is called a sweep. When there is a sweep, there is no notice given because it is not necessary. Could it be necessary from the perspective of a service provider? Certainly. But in the eyes of the law, this is a trespassing issue, so you got to go. So that's overwhelmingly what happens. Decommissions happen when encampments are on city property. This is where the rules exist around notice. And the notice varies city to city, but notice will be given X number of days until, and then the decommission will happen. Then there's what we call clearance and closure with support. And this is the model. And this is where we need to expand. So what we do is, first of all, we don't do first come, first serve with encampments. We created a prioritization system where we score each encampment. All those hundreds of ones that come in, we score every single one of them. The higher the score, the more critical the encampment is. And let me tell you something. We can predict death in an encampment at a rate of 100%. Every time an encampment is scored critical, we predict a death is going to happen within 7 days, and it has happened. It's incredible. So our thought is, let's tackle those first and work our way down. We no longer have any critical encampments in Kansas City left because we intentionally chose them first. So the way we do it is we get every service provider that is interested, and we have an entire month where we are progressively engaging this encampment with an array of services. We are only limited by the capacity of the nonprofits in this system and their willingness to participate. And so far, they've been willing. It's incredible. A month is a long time. We need more folks helping with. But you know, the one thing that works is what you said. It is someone meeting with them every day. You build a relationship. All of this is built on trusting relationships, by the way.
Right.
All of it. Just like your relationships at home, it's in your life, it's the same. Building those relationships, you cash in that relational equity to talk about hard things. Hey, substance use is an issue here. Let's find a way. But you've earned the right to say that in that relationship. That is what works. And here's the deal. We've got so many people going to encampments in general, but primarily what people do with encampments is they bring stuff. They drop off hygiene bags. They drop off food. If 100 people ask me, Josh, I'm sure it's the same with you, how can I help? 99 of them, regardless of what I say, is going to do food or hygiene items. What we need to do is train those folks, those that are willing. And trust me, it ain't going to be all of them. It's going to be 15%, but that's all we need. Truly, I want you to be of that 15%. If you can be the person that starts the progressive engagement, start talking differently. Don't make it transactional. It doesn't have to be about food. It's about building a relationship. And as you build that relationship, you are earning the right to have those tough conversations. What you're really doing is you are showing yourself to be reliable. And you can build a relationship on reliability way more than you can build it on stuff. And we need your help to do that. We can only do one a month with Clears to Closure with support. I'm sure other cities are the same because we don't have enough people that are willing to do that.
Well, I think that's a really good point. When I started this organization, we were not like a help case management services. We're a medical team, right? Yeah. There are other agencies out there that do case management.
Are there?
No, which is why I have a case management team, right? Our case management team is part of that core that goes out and helps with those closures. And it's crazy to me to see the lack of case management support on direct outreach.
Yes.
Right. And so that is the reason why many years ago I said, okay, I do need a case manager. I do need somebody to help with those vital documents that we talked about. And now our case managers help with housing and birth certificates and IDs and Medicaid applications and all of those things that people aren't getting because there's such a lack of those case managers who can go out or do go out. Now, let's talk about that just real quick. A lot of the case managers or the outreach workers who want to go out, they're not always allowed to go out by their organization.
It's really interesting. People need to understand
this. It's not the outreach workers or the case managers who are like, I don't want to go into that encampment. No. They want to go out there. They want to meet people there where they are. They want to be in those encampments and helping people because they know that that's the best way to engage with somebody, right? But a lot of times their agencies will not allow that, even though they're homeless service providers.
We're going to do 1 minute on why this is. Working with someone in an encampment is really hard, and you got to bank a lot of hours. It is not totally off the wall for it to take 100 hours per person. That's on the extreme end, but it exists. It normally doesn't do that, but that is real. That is a thing. If you are a nonprofit, your funding is dependent on the number of engagements you have with unique individuals. If you have a case manager that is doing this in encampments, it means those numbers are going to be low. Even though this is the most impactful, the funding model has to flick to paying more to work with clients that need more time. Instead, the funding model is we're paying for quantity.
Yep.
And that is a huge reason why they're not allowed. What's crazy is that you have to have this rare combination of fearlessness, compassion, and practicality to be willing to do that. And the fact that we have a bunch of people that are willing, which is rare in and of itself, and they're not being allowed to, is unfathomable to me. We desperately need them, and this funding model has to shift.
Well, I think that, we talked about solutions, and I do think that here in Kansas City, we have a great approach.
We got a good start.
We have a good start. We need more support.
We need more infrastructure.
Absolutely. We need more teams that go out. We need more service providers that go out into those encampments and do that. But I think that other cities can also do that. And maybe they are.
Are they?
Yes. I mean,
yes, some.
Right. But it is, I think I want to get back to one more thing is that it's individuality.
Absolutely.
Individuality and making sure that we're recognizing the person standing in front of us. And if we're doing this in this way, it does really stress the importance of each human being, each person, because each person gets that assistance that they need. Being homeless, future podcast, being homeless is not easy. The complexities of homelessness are a vicious cycle. You are literally running around in circles most of the time to get nowhere, to literally get back to the next day. And I think that having a person, an outreach worker, a case manager who comes in to try to work with that person to break that cycle, they didn't get there overnight. We just talked about the chronic homelessness. It's nationwide. It's not just Kansas City. Chronic homelessness is prevalent in the United States. Kansas City, the worst. We already talked about that. But you don't get out of something that is chronic in a 15-minute conversation, right? I am not going to cure your chronic hypertension with a 5-minute conversation and throwing you a pill. It doesn't work that way. It takes education. It takes interaction. It takes follow-up.
I told my case managers, whenever I manage case managers, Homeless folks do homeless things. Do not be mad when that happens. Expect it, bake it in, and learn to roll with it because of what you just said. You take someone who's chronic and homeless and put them in an apartment. Oh, they're not going to snap out of it. That takes time. They're still in survival mode, even more so when they're in the encampment. I love that you brought that up. It ain't easy.
No.
Being a homeless woman in America is the worst thing to be in America. I can't believe that what happens in that scenario exists here. But in my mind, there's nothing worse than that. Nothing. It's horrible.
That's for another podcast as well.
Yeah, and I would love
to need to talk about that. We do need to talk about the crimes that are committed against women when they're experiencing homelessness. We'll talk about that another time.
We will. We'll get into it. We'll give it the respect and reverence it deserves.
A lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
All right, let's go into my favorite part of this, which is Ask the Experts. This is where you all can ask KK questions. You can ask me questions as well. Anything about homelessness. There are no holds barred. And also, we recognize everyone has a different starting point with homelessness. So even if the question you might think, Dan, is this mean? We are not going to take it that way. We love curious folks. So whatever question you have is good. And we are going to turn it over to our producer, Jackie, to tell us what is our question this week.
Josh, you mentioned that there are no more critical encampments left in Kansas City. But how many encampments are there, and how do you count them?
This is a great question. I don't have the exact number right now. I believe the number of encampments of individuals above 3 is less than 30. When I got into this job, it was 200.
You're talking about encampments.
Yeah.
Right.
So now, I'm not defining an encampment of 1 or 2 people in a tent. That's not now. Could the general public view it that way? Certainly. But we got to have definitions for things. Things have to mean a certain thing. But encampments, 3 or more people, I believe we are down to less than 30. I believe that is right. It's around there. How do we count them? Well, we hear about them. Number one, we hear about them all the time. Anytime there's an encampment, there's going to be someone who's telling us about where it is and what's happening there every time. And what we do is we go there, we score the encampment on, I actually dubbed it the Allen Index, which is a 100-point scoring system.
Did you make that up?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
We'll have to talk about that.
Yes. So, and I also want to say to any city, municipality, nonprofit, anything that we have created on our team, you can have. So email me as we talk about this, you can have it. Doesn't matter what it is, to include the scoring methodology. And that's what we do. We score it. When we score it, we bring it back into a spreadsheet. We put it in the spreadsheet when we look, and then once a month, we go through our encampment prioritization. We say, all right, we meet with land bank. We meet with the different departments where homelessness intersects. And we say, all right, which ones are we going to prioritize? And that's how we do it. Boom, boom, boom. And what's great is we have a great relationship with the police department. And this is a big deal. In your city, you must have a good relationship with PD. Your police department is going to interact with homeless folks way more than any service provider, especially for certain populations or certain individuals for sure. So having a good relationship with the police department means they let us know when an encampment is at risk for being swept because it's on private property. This is why you need to have a good relationship with PD. They can be an incredible value. We've had the opportunity to train all of our CIT officers on this type of interaction. We've got 2 officers dedicated to working encampments. They are dedicated officers that do it, and we meet with them weekly to do outreach. So that's a little bit about how we do it. And I recommend other cities try something similar. And if you have a better way to do it, we want to know because we want to get this right.
Absolutely. This question's for KK. You are offering medical assistance to the homeless here in Kansas City, Missouri. But what does the street medicine landscape look like across the United States? That is a fabulous question.
This is a really unique niche field.
It is, but it isn't. Just coming back in the International Street Medicine Symposium, there's a whole lot of us. So I think that it's really important to recognize one of the things I want to piggyback on to what Josh said. Kansas City is very unique in that it doesn't have a ton of encampments, but it doesn't mean we don't have a lot of people who are living outside, right? Their encampments are low in numbers, but we have a lot of people who don't have a place to sleep at night. They're under bridges, they're on sidewalks. We really don't have the number of encampments that other cities have. And I don't know why that is, but we still have a lot of people that are just randomly sleeping places. Important to note. So street medicine landscape looks really different in every single city, as it should. The reason for that is because every single city has a different homeless landscape.
Yeah.
Right? I've been in cities where they have huge encampments. They have 10, 20, 30 tents in one place. We don't have that in Kansas City. That's very unusual. I've been on Skid Row in LA where it's tent after tent after tent. We don't have that here as well. So the street medicine teams in LA look different than the street medicine teams in Kansas City. So for I think one of the wonderful things about what street medicine does is a lot of the teams make it fit to what the needs are of their patients, which is how medicine should be. Let's just talk about that for just a second. Medicine should be tailored to the needs of the patient population that you're serving. We are serving people who are experiencing homelessness. I want to say something just real quick. I don't use the term houseless. This is my personal thing. I do not like the term houseless. I say people are experiencing homelessness, or when I'm referring to homelessness in general, I say homelessness. I feel like houseless is a little bit condescending. Just my personal opinion.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, perfect. Glad we agree. Anyway, so when you're talking about people who are experiencing homelessness, every city does it differently. There are hundreds of street medicine teams throughout the United States and the world, actually. And we all have a different way of providing the care that we do to the patients that we take care of. So we do have practices, general practices and ethics that our licensure really dictates. But it's not standardized. Street medicine is not standardized. There's not a template for it, because when we go into encampments, we don't know what we're going to see. We don't know if we're going to see one person, 5 people. The teams in different cities do it differently than you do, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. And it's very unique, and it's built on what the needs are of the people that we're serving. Once again, it's individualized to the city, which is what I love about street medicine. So I do want to acknowledge our producer and director.
Yes.
So we can't forget about Jackie and Solomon. Jackie Lamer is our producer, and Solomon Shields is our director. And they're making sure that we're doing the right things, right? Doing the right things? Yeah. So we want you to join us next time on Untangling Knots, where we'll continue to explore the challenging realities of homelessness without the sugarcoat.
Thanks for watching.
Till next time.